Hi there, and welcome to your channel, Entrepreneurship Startups, and welcome also to all the English-speaking subscribers out there, all three of you. Hopefully, people will eventually discover that maybe there is something useful in this channel, and they will start subscribing. For this week, we are going to talk about a model that I have developed that I think is useful. What this model is about is it gives you an idea of the attractiveness of your startup idea, how attractive it is. It kind of gives you a score, and you can use it basically as just another person's opinion. Okay, it's certainly based on my judgment in many aspects, but it's a starting point, so use it for that. But also, as it says here in the bottom, you can use it as to consider a new idea you're contemplating and kind of score it, but also to judge the attractiveness of a new app. For example, if you are an investor, if you're an angel investor, or even a VC, and you come up with an app out there and you want to see how attractive is it? Is it good? Is it bad? That's what you want to do. So it's useful for that. It's not used for mature companies, obviously, because it only talks about early ideas, maybe even pre-seed or early seed companies. Okay, so what does it do? Okay, here's what it does. First of all, notice that here in the middle there is a light green grid, and this is where you basically work. Okay, you don't touch any of the other elements of this sheet, so just work here in the middle. And when you score something, what you need to do is you just double click. Okay, so here I double click on the 5. If you change your mind, you click on the double click on the 8, then the 8 becomes the 1. Okay, so you can double click on each factor by in this way, and that's your score for the factor, as we will see. When you want to start all over again, just double click on reset, and then the screen is cleared. Okay, so this is the middle part. Now if you look on the left side, you will see that I have those 14 factors listed here, and we will go through them with an example. Obviously, if there are 14 factors, if we divide 100% by 14 factors, you can see that each factor should get on average about 7%. Okay, but I have placed weights here for each of these factors, okay, to make them more representative and more realistic. Okay, and again, this is just based on my judgment, and you can see, for example, here this is given a 4, so that's less than average. This is given 16. So this is kind of quite high compared to the other factors. Okay, so that's the left side. On the right side, the score for each factor will be here, and here I just throw some examples for you to consider. Just it will help you as you put your score on the table here. Okay, and in the bottom we have this reset button, but we also have 3 different criteria for the final score. So for example, if you get less than 50% as a final score, then this idea or this app is really weak. Okay, because it may have some issues. Okay, if you score between 50 and 75, it's a good app. Okay, it's probably worth pursuing, and it might be worth considering and continuing on working on it if it's your application. If it's more than 75%, then yes, this is a great idea, and the more the better. So if it's 90%, then that's even a very highly excellent app. Okay, so that's what it is. Let's take an example so that we can run through these very quickly. And let's say that somebody is considering an application that will be a mobile app, and he is thinking of developing an app for home electrician. Okay, so this is an app that you use to get an electrician to your home to fix a particular electrical problem in your home. So he thinks that this is a highly needed application, and he wants to develop it. So he uses this model. Okay, let's start with the first factor. The first factor says the app idea is novel with some creative and innovative elements. Okay, so is this really an innovative and novel app? I don't think it's very novel. The idea of creating an app that gets some service for you at home is already there out there. It's not really that novel, and it does not developing it and running it does not really require a lot of creative elements. So I probably will not give it really a high score here, maybe a 4 or 5, something like that, because it's not really novel. In the examples that I listed here to help you with this, for example, I say WhatsApp, the application, is worth 10. Okay, if you were the founder of WhatsApp at the beginning and you are using this model, yes, you will say that this app is novel because it's using some very advanced techniques for interacting with the telephone, and it has some very nice elements to it. So he gives it a 10. Okay, then the next element is, or the factor is, the app addresses a major pain point and solves it. Okay, so here notice that we're giving this 16%. So basically what we're saying here is that if the idea is novel and it's a great idea, it's something revolutionary, okay, it's really worth only 4%. Why? Because that's not really the important thing here. The important thing is, does it solve a major problem? That's what we score high on. Okay, so this is the one here. Asking this question, for example, in our home electrician app, is getting an electrician at home, is that a major pain point? Are people really suffering because they cannot get an electrician at home? Is it something that takes a lot of effort and there are no alternatives to it? I don't think so. It's a normal. There are alternatives, and it's not something really that painful. So I would not give it really a high score. I probably would give it maybe a 5 or 6. And here again, I say WhatsApp is 7. Okay, so here the WhatsApp app is not really it's not a 10, because when WhatsApp came up, it wasn't really solving a major pain point. It was something nice and unique, and people wanted to use it. And here actually you have to use your judgment, because sometimes you have a novel idea that people don't even know that they need, and your role is to convince people that this is something that they should use. So use your judgment about this factor here. PayPal, for example, was 10 because when PayPal came up, it was really solving a major payment problem online. So I would give it a 10 in that case. Okay, let's take a look at the third factor. The factor says it does not require a big investment to get it up to product market fit. Okay, so you're thinking about this idea and you're saying that yeah, I can probably develop the application, get it running and launch and get going without too much investment. My guess here is that if it is less than $1 million, I probably will give it a 9 or 10. Okay, so that's your judgment. For this home electrician app, it's a common app these days. You might find many developers who can do it, and it may not be that much expensive, and the setup and the launching and all of that, it may not be very expensive. So I would say, yeah, I kind of agree with that, and I would probably give it even a 9. Okay. Number 4, it says number of potential users is huge. This is the market size. Okay, now the examples here, it says if all people everywhere are going to use it, then it's definitely a 10. If it's an application for deer hunters, then it's probably low. It's a 1 or 2 because the size of the market is not that huge. But look at the weight that we're giving this. We're giving it at 3%. Okay, because it's not only the market size that matters. What matters more is actually the profit margin of the app. So So what is the profit margin? So for example, the example here says, if out of $100 sale, you the app gets $70, that's a 70% profit margin, and that's a 10, okay, because you are getting a lot out of each sale. Now for the home electrician app, obviously you are not going to get $70 out of every $100 service, so it's the profit margin is not that high. So I probably will give it only a 3, okay, because it's not that high. Okay, we go to number 6. Number 6 says scaling the app is not costly. Okay, so let's say that this app works very well and it's accepted in your city or community, and now you're thinking about deploying further. You want to go to the national level or even international level. Will you need offices? Will you need different setups, infrastructures, maybe certain key staff here and there for each location or for each community? If that's the case, then the scaling is not easily done, and it might be costly, and that in that case you want to give it maybe a low score. The example here I say scaling Twitter is 10 because Twitter is online and it's just an app you can access online. We can from day one basically deploy it throughout the world. Scaling Uber, for example, is a 6 because I think Uber needs offices in different cities. They need some kind of legal work here and there. They need staff, and so it's not easily scaled. Okay, so and that's why Uber has been spending a lot of money. WeWork, which is a new application that is hot these days, you can look it up. I would say that that application is really very low, okay, because to scale something that requires renting offices and blah blah is expensive. So we will not give. For our home electrician application, I would say scaling is not all that difficult. You just need to basically do some coordination with electricians in other cities and you know, maybe some basic setups here and there. It's not that so yeah, I would say I agree with that. It is scaling, it is not that difficult, but it's not at 9 or 10 in my opinion, so I just give it an 8. Okay, let's take a look at number 7. The app has access to superb technical resources. So you ask yourself, do you have access to the technical resources that are needed, whether you already have them, or you think that they are easily gotten and you're not too much worried about the technical resources. That you have to judge, and that will be particular to the individual doing this. So for now, let's just say 7 because we don't really know much about the application here. Okay, number 8, required number of high-level management is low. Okay, so the examples here says if you need 3 vice presidents and 10 directors and blah blah, then that application requires a lot of management skill, and you want to give it a low score, maybe even 0 if it is that real high. For the home electrician app, yeah, you don't really need a whole lot of management level expertise and so on. So yeah, I would say probably a 9. Okay, let's go to number 9. Required number of employees is low. Okay, and notice that we're giving this a relatively high weight. How many employees do you need to get this app running? Here, again, that's just a judgment here. Generally 10 or less employees, I would say fine, that's not really too much, and I would give it a 10 if that was the case. For this home electrician, I think yeah, it will not really require a whole lot, so I probably will give it a 10. So I'll give it a 10 for that. Number 10, marketing the app is not very expensive. Okay, now again, judgment comes to play here, and I say if it's $100,000 per year for marketing, it's not too much, and that application is good in that factor, and give it a 10. For the home electrician, you do need some kind of marketing because you know there is competition. There are too many apps with home services all over, and yeah, maybe you do need, but I probably 8. I don't know, probably 8. Okay, so you agree with it? It's certainly not a low score because it does not require heavy marketing, you know, during Super Bowl or something like that. It's not that heavily demanding marketing. Now, number 11, no training or only minimal and quick training is required to use the app. Okay, for example, here to use a Bitcoin app, it's probably a 3 because it requires a lot of training to get to know how the thing works. Using Google search is 10, okay, because there's really not much to do. Just put your search keywords and you're done. So generally for mobile apps, they are getting easier and easier to use, and you would expect that the home electrician app would probably not be difficult to use. No hard training, so I probably go with a 9 on that. Number 12, not difficult to get government or corporate licensing, okay, if needed. Okay, for example, here I say a tame digital content app that just gives you information that's just common general information, does not require any kind of licensing most of the time, so you give it a 10. But if you have an app that is based on buying chemicals online, for example, that might get you some issues with the government or with other companies, so you need to get licensing. So there is an issue with licensing. For our home electrician, yes, I think it's not a 10, because yes, you do need to worry about the electricians that are coming through you, to ensure that they have proper licensing and so on, and it depends, of course, on your situation. So I would say probably a 6, because I think it might be an issue here. Number 13, damage to users arising from using the app is minimal. Okay, and this is kind of a product liability issue. Okay, again, for the example here, if it's a digital content, basic digital content, then it's a 10, because what's the damage? You read something about Niagara Falls that wasn't correct 100%, so the damage is not really that much of an issue. If it is a financial app that I'm using for example, personal finance, and it's messing up my budget and so on, then the damage is a little medium to high, and you can see, you can judge based on that. For the home electrician app, the damage can be substantial if the electrician does some work and he messes up and your house blows up, and of course then there might be some liability for the company that's supporting this electrician. So there is some, I'm not really sure to what extent, but I will just say maybe I'll give it a 6. Okay, and the final factor is the app is generally non-controversial from ethical standpoints. It's non-discriminatory, these kinds of issues. So here I'm saying that if your app is about checking on your cheating partner, for example, then it's kind of a bit controversial, and you do not want to give it a 10. It's probably a 2 or 3 or something like that. For the home electrician app, it's not controversial at all. It's just an application that can be used by everyone, so it's not really controversial. I'll probably give it a 10. Okay, so I'll give it a 10. That's it. So that now we get the final score, which is 65%. Okay, and let's look at our final evaluation here. Okay, so we got 65, so it's in the middle of this criteria here, and what it says this app is good, or this idea is good. You can pursue it further. It looks like it has something going for it. It's certainly not less than 50, so it's not a weak app, and it's not more than 75% to the point where we say that this is an excellent app. Let's run and invest in it, or let's run and create it. Okay, so that's the final score, 65%. Okay, really that's it. That's the whole model. Again, the usefulness of the model is that it's not a magical model that will give you a solid 100% evaluation that everyone can agree on. It's more like an idea. It's good for brainstorming. Okay, if some founders are thinking about working on a startup idea, it's a good way for them to individually use it to score and then sit together and discuss. Okay, the 14 factors that I listed here are pretty much good enough that I think will cover most cases, and they will also help you thinking more and more of your idea. Okay, they will give you some pointers, and you'll start thinking about where you are going and whether you have even considered some of these factors. Okay, that's it. That's what I have for this simple model for evaluating your startup idea. I hope you like it, and I thank you very much for listening in, and see you next time on Entrepreneurship Startups. Thank you. Bye-bye.